you're watching Half Asian Tarot Queen. I'm Elisa. I'm going to start with this Mystical Shaman Oracle. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for checking it out. There's been kind of an uptick of traffic in the last week, so that's pretty cool. We are in the middle of the eclipse season right now, so the readings have been pretty climactic, for sure. I'm not really aspiring to be a tarot reader. I just do this because I love it. The readings are arranged a little differently in that they're all timeless. They all tend to be interrelated, so when like another reading that's kind of related comes up, I'll link it up here. But then I also arrange them in storylines or playlists on the channel, which I kind of put down there in the description box. So you can kind of browse the channel that way if you like. Yeah, because like I said, I've kind of talked about this before, but like really I'm a vegan cheesemaker, and that's my calling in life. But I've been sort of having this, like a lot of people this year, kind of a profound family emergency that's sort of taken precedence. And so I've been on hiatus, though I am trying to get back to work soon. So anyways, long story short, I'm not really trying to start a tarot channel. I just love the tarot. However, while I'm shuffling, I'll just tell you that I've decided for the holidays, because I do love tarot so much, and because I've gotten some requests, I'm going to do this special. And I think it's a pretty good deal, actually, where I'm going to do personalized readings. So you'll get your own reading in video format, like in the format that I'm doing these readings, but it'll be for your own. And you can get it, you know, a general reading, it could be a love reading, or it could be like a career finance, you know, whatever focus you want to have. And for $35. So it's a pretty good deal. However, I'm only going to do 10 of them because, you know, like I said, this isn't what I'm trying to do, but I want to do it for fun for the holidays. So just putting that out there, and we'll see how it goes. On with the reading. So at the bottom of the deck, I got the coyote. So this is really interesting because the coyote kind of speaks to like detours, you know, like sometimes things don't go the way you expect in life. I mean, that happens more often than not. And so you kind of get thrown a curveball, you know, and so that can be really unsettling. But the message of the coyote is just to like, don't get thrown by a loop because that's happening. Like that happens because there's really an important lesson or some adjustment that has to happen to your perspective. And that's why this is happening. I mean, we've been talking in the readings leading up to this all about sort of having like an emotional wound that needs to be brought into your awareness to like clear up some sort of distortion in how you're seeing things, you know, and how that's going to lead to this profound transformation. I mean, that's been a theme that's in like increasingly like coming to climax over the eclipse season. So it's interesting that the coyote is the underlying energy because, you know, that's a lot of like eclipse season, like something that's sort of like outside of your awareness. It's kind of bringing you out of your comfort zone, but it's going to trigger some sort of like evolution of your perspective and also just like ascending, you know, to the next era of your life. So this is actually a good thing, you know, but it doesn't always necessarily feel like that in the moment. Okay, so then the other cards I got are the upper world. So this speaks to the heavenly realms, speaks to your ancestors or God consciousness or the spiritual world. We've got the owl, which this speaks to like wisdom sort of being imparted to you through the heavenly realms, you know, and it can be like from your ancestors, or from the spiritual realm, but it comes as like a sign or a synchronicity in your world. And then we have the rattle, you know, which this speaks to like co-creating with the universe, you know, and this is like a powerful tool, but this is also like the message that comes with this is like when you are consciously co-creating with the universe or with God, like it's really important to have the right intentions, because if you don't, it's gonna get cleaned up and it might come back to you in a painful way. So like you want to be clear and you want to have the right intentions, and if you do, then don't worry about it. Things are going to work out, you know, like you can have faith that things are going to work out, which goes right into magic, which is beautiful, you know, because it's sort of like when you are in alignment with the highest good or with God or the universe, then the spiritual realm is going to conspire to help you to manifest your goals if you're in alignment with, you know, what's meant to be. So this will come about as like these magical coincidences, you know, that will work out in your favor. So things might not necessarily work out how you anticipate. I mean, that's clearly not going to happen, but you might be surprised. So, you know, just don't be attached to an outcome, you know, because you're working with powers that are bigger than you and that can see beyond what you can see, you know. But you're being guided, so, you know, have faith that your arrow is going to hit the mark, you know. So this is actually a really good omen, because this speaks to being in alignment with spirit or with God or with the higher realms, and knowing that when you release your arrow into the universe, your arrow is going to hit the mark. So this is actually a really auspicious reading, you know. But it does kind of suggest that there's going to be some unexpected drama between point A and point B that we're going to have to walk through. So, you know, that's just a warning. But it does look like, even though things might not work out how you're expecting, it looks like there is an alignment with how things are meant to be, so it's going to be okay, you know. Okay, so I also pulled from a couple other decks. I pulled from Radiant Wise Spirit Tarot, and I also pulled from the Urban Tarot. So I'm going to start with this. So Radiant Wise, on the bottom we have the Six of Cups. So this speaks with a deep soulmate connection, or maybe a connection with someone from the past. But that's the underlying energy. So like perhaps there's some sort of relationship issue that's going to be impacted by all of this. And it's interesting because the first row, I pulled out the four of swords, you know, but a couple cards fell out under it. So it's like this person is sort of like taking a moment to sort of like meditate and reflect. And the cards that fell out under it are like the Nine of Swords, which is a card of like fear and anxiety, and the Eight of Cups, which is a card of like having invested a lot into something but having to leave it behind. And it's interesting because all the readings of this month, like the main reading for this month is called Breaking the Chain, and it speaks to, you know, last month we were getting released from this oppressive situation, and this month we're kind of having to cut the cord on whatever. It was like suggesting that there was like a relationship that was like the source of this oppressive situation that was causing all of this, you know, like this kind of suggests like maybe some sort of like abusive situation, and like having to walk away from that, you know. And so this person is sort of like reflecting about this situation, you know. So that could be part of the whole breaking the chain, you know. There's some sort of connection that we're having to either cut the cord on or move away from in order to sort of like bring about, you know, our desires and our destiny in the world. You know, we're having to cut free of this situation, you know. And then we have the King of Cups, you know, which this is someone who's like come into their power and they're like operating from a heart-centered place. So it's just like cutting themselves free from this situation is like allowing this person to become empowered and allowing them to come back into balance, you know. So it's actually a really profound healing thing, which is interesting because, you know, all the readings leading up to this for the eclipse season have been speaking to like this situation, you know. And then we have the Lovers, you know, which this can be like a deep soul connection. But in the context of this reading, I'm sort of taking this as a card of sort of like integration, like integrating two halves of a whole, you know. It's just like whatever this situation was that was like oppressing this person, like it's coming into a balance and we're like able to now like integrate with our life, you know. I mean, whatever this oppression is, the chains are being broken and we're being lifted out of it. And then we have the Seven of Swords, which this was a really prevalent reading in yesterday's reading, Blue Skies on the Horizon. And it's been a really prevalent energy in a lot lately. But this is a card of deception, you know. So this is like somebody who at the root is like not being honest with themselves and they're not being honest with people around them. So this is creating this disturbance, you know, because it's just like when you're not being honest with yourself and you're not being honest with people around you, like you're not going to be able to manifest what you need to manifest because there's going to be like this dissonance, you know, like this is kind of like requiring a reality check, you know, because it's just sort of like you're not like in alignment with the world around you. So, you know, you're ultimately creating a false reality that's like sort of like a house of cards that's gonna like fall, you know. So it's like this situation is, it looks like it's being healed because this steps right into the Three of Cups, which is a card of like reunion and like reconciling and like coming back into the fold, you know. So it's just like this person is having to take this moment to like heal this situation. And in doing that, they're going to heal and come into their power, which is, it's going to fuel this sort of like integration and this sort of reality check, which is going to ultimately bring them back to where they need to be, you know, like a full circle moment. So that's interesting, you know, because there's obviously a big, like I was saying, like this big lesson that's being needed to learn. It's needing to be learned, you know. But there's a lot of guidance that's happening from the spiritual lesson to sort of, I mean, spiritual realm to kind of like support this, you know, this lesson. So, okay, so I'm going to go to the Urban Tarot. And on the bottom of this deck, we have the Prince of Swords, which is the hacker in this deck, you know. So this can be like the Page of Swords in the traditional deck, but it can be like a message of truth or clarity that's coming in, and maybe not necessarily one that necessarily wants to be heard, you know. I mean, the hacker kind of like speaks to someone who's just sort of like almost like hiding out from reality, like they're living in their cave, like they're creating their own realities here, you know, but like they're still having like an impact on the world. So there's like somebody that's like in the background hacking away at the situation, you know. And I don't know what that means, but we're gonna keep going because this is like an underlying energy. So it's almost like there's like this little mouse that's like chewing away at like what we're trying to like accomplish here. But okay, so on the top row, we have the Queen of Cups, the therapist. We have the Rock Star. We have Strength. The Ace of Swords. And Pleasure. And it's really cool how these cards line up with the Radiant Wise, you know. So this person who's like having to take this moment to heal this and like kind of cut the cord on whatever this toxic situation is for them, like, we get the therapist right under that. So this person is actually having to do some work on this situation, but doing that is gonna like empower them, you know. And then right under that we have the Rock Star. So like, it's gonna bring some notoriety and blessings to this person to have done this work, you know. And then we have like this card of like integrating these sort of like reconciling these sort of like disparate aspects that have been like, you know, like when you have like a distortion or, you know, a disowned part of yourself that you're having to like bring back, you know, and integrate, you know, it's not easy to like confront your shadow, you know. We have Strength under that. Like it's work, you know. This is not easy. Like you have to make a conscious effort to like do the work, you know. But underneath this deception, we have the Ace of Swords. So like the truth is being shown on this, whatever this distortion is, and it's coming to light, you know, and that's leading to this reconciliation and this pleasure, the Six of Cups, which, you know, is the second time, you know. So it's like coming back into the fold, coming back into your community, you know. Like maybe there's some aspect of your life that you've been sort of dissociated from, you know. Like for me, I've had to come back home, you know, to deal with this family emergency, and like I haven't lived here very much, you know, for most of my life. So there's certain aspects of like community that like I've dissociated from because I haven't lived here, you know. And like having to like come back and like reconcile those aspects of myself, because even though I haven't been here, you know, like I'm still connected to this community and this story, you know. And so having to like reconcile those kind of loose ends, you know. But then, okay, so I'm going to go on to the next row. We've got Gain. So this came up recently in a reading, and I was talking about Martha Stewart being a thirst trap. So there's this person who's kind of like this single, independent, like they've got their own stuff going on and they've worked out their own, you know, issues. And it's just like this person is like stepping into their own independence, and they're stepping forward, you know, like large and in charge. And it looks like this is the person who's actually taken the time out to like really be honest with themselves about where they might not be seeing things as they are, you know. Like they've done the work, they've gone to the therapy, and like now that work is starting to show up, you know, like as like, oh, you know, like I'm starting to see how all these dots connect now, you know, like it's like starting to pay off, you know. And then we have Prudence, the Eight of Pentacles, you know. So in the traditional deck, this is someone who's like making a dedicated effort towards something, you know. So it's just sort of like we've come into power and like with ourselves, and like now it's like there's this opportunity that's coming up, and it's like a big opportunity, you know. And like it's like this person's maybe going back to work, or whatever insight has come to this person is like creating a new opportunity for them in the world, you know. Like they're able to like manifest, you know, from this heart-centered place. So it's interesting, like for me, like I had to like kind of like throw my whole life on hold. Like I've been saying, I've been on hiatus dealing with this family emergency, and like all of a sudden, all this career stuff is starting to like come online for me. So it's like I've been saying, I'm gonna be going back to work soon. Like I don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but like all of a sudden, like all these opportunities are starting to come online, you know? So it's just like I've done the work, like I showed up and I did what I was supposed to do, and so now like this new world is starting to emerge, you know? Okay, so then we have art, which is temperance. You know, it's a card of alchemy and balance. You know, we have the temperance angel here, you know? So it's like we're starting to integrate these lost halves, you know, and it's a lot of work, but we're learning the lessons, we're integrating, you know, and like now we're starting to come into this state of flow with like these lost parts of ourselves that are needing to be reconciled, you know? It's just like we've gone on this detour. It's not how we thought it was going to go, but we've like harnessed the diamond that was supposed to be learned from this, you know, situation. And then like we have swiftness. So this is like the Eight of Wands. So there's a message coming in, like light is being shed on whatever this deception is, and it's happening fast. Like something is changing, you know? And then we have the universe. So again, like I was saying, it's like an ascension. Like all these lessons are coming together into this fruition, which is allowing us to ascend into this next era of life. But it required us to have to go on this cosmic detour where we're having to learn this lesson, you know, about like maybe how we are not seeing things how they really were. And part of it is maybe like painful, you know, having to confront aspects of your life that you don't want to see or haven't wanted to see, you know, but you're having to like integrate them and evolve your perspective. But in doing that, you're ultimately, all paths lead home at the end of the day, you know? So this is all like a good thing, you know, but it's kind of a process, you know? So it's just like you have guidance, you're being guided through this process, and your arrow is going to hit the mark, you know? However might look in the moment. So I'm going to go to the Starseed Oracle and pick a final card. But yeah, this eclipse season is for sure, it's a real doozy. And this is not easy stuff to work through, but it's like you have to kind of like bust through your blockages and your fears in order to move on to the next, you know, stage of life. And so it's like if you're willing to actually face those fears and do the work, you might be surprised at what comes through. Okay, I'm just going to do maybe one more card from here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. All right. Okay, so we got star bathing, light body, crystal grid, transmission, activation. So yeah, things are coming online. Your arrow is going to hit the mark. There's magic all around, you know. This is a point of activation, you know, and we got jump in. Andromedan energy, adventure, say yes to change. Like, it's going to be okay, you know. Embrace the change. Like, it's maybe not how you thought it was going to be, but, like, trust and have faith that this is how it was meant to be, and embrace the change, because there's really good things on the horizon. And then at the bottom we have water your garden, nourishment, body care, tenderness, and rest. So yeah, like there's a lot changing. Try to focus on yourself. Try to nourish yourself and support yourself through this whole eclipse and the shift that's happening. Just remember to take care of you. It's exciting. It's overwhelming. It's dramatic. Focus on yourself. Take care of you. And I'll be back soon with some more messages.